AEW fans are convinced that Chris Jericho is heading back to WWE and leaving AEW. We have everything you need to know about this situation because it's very complex and there's a lot of different angles to cover. And I hope that we can do that in today's video because as rumors continue to swirl about Chris Jericho potentially returning to WWE, a new report suggests that a surprising factor is pushing him to leave AEW, the company's own fan base. Yeah, you heard that right. Because according to a report from the Wrestling Observer's Dave Meltzer, I know, kid. But the backlash Jericho has received from a segment from the AEW fan base is a key reason he is considering a return to WWE. Yeah, you heard that right, because his contract's slated to expire at the end of 2025, and it's something to absolutely keep an eye on. Now, Dave Meltzer, he hyped it up as this is the biggest story of the year, or one of the biggest stories of the year. I wouldn't go that far. We'll touch on that in a little bit. Now, let's talk about the fan backlash. Look, Chris Jericho, there is no doubting, and you have to give the man his respect. He was a key reason as to why AEW got off the ground in the first place. He was a foundational type star for AEW, becoming the promotion's biggest star in the first year or so, and the first ever World Heavyweight Champion, and giving the new company an immediate main event credibility. However, Jericho, he is 54 years old, and his athletic abilities have naturally declined. Not anything that he can help, it's just Father Time catches up to us all. And he's faced criticism from a portion of the AEW fan base that prioritizes high octane in-ring action. Now, this backlash has included an audible "please retire" chants during his matches. Now, Dave Meltzer, he believes this negativity, the negative reaction from the fan base is a major factor in the current situation. He said, I think if AEW's fan base didn't turn on him, I don't think we're having this discussion at all, but they did. It's a familiar story. Meltzer drew a direct parallel to the situation with another AEW founder in Cody Rhodes. Now, in Cody Rhodes' final year with the AEW, Rhodes was booed, and he was booed out the building by a large segment of the fan base despite being booked as a top babyface in the company. Rhodes eventually left the company to help build that he once helped build and has since become a top star in WWE. The reality is, they did it on Cody. Cody left, and look what happened, Meltzer noted. While he doesn't believe that a Chris Jericho return would have the same level of an impact as Cody, he does expect it would be very successful short term for the multiple time world champion should he return to WWE. Now, the rumors of potential WWE return have been fueled by Jericho's long absence from AEW television and his recent social media activity, which has included liking posts about a potential comeback. Previous reports have indicated that there is interest within WWE in bringing the former Hall of Famer back into the fold. With his AEW contract reportedly expiring at the end of the year, the wrestling world will be watching closely to see if Jericho will re-sign with AEW or make a historic return to the company that made him a legend in the first place. Here's where I have an issue with the story and where I have a problem with the story. If you look at the situation where would it make sense for WWE to bring back Jericho? Yes, it would bring back sense because it makes a lot of sense to bring him back. Here's why. Chris Jericho is a big name, okay? He may not be a big name to you and I anymore, but he's a big name for AEW to use. There's a reason that AEW and Tony Khan wanted him as the ROH World Heavyweight Champion when they were shopping around the ROH brand. They want him in this company. WWE has made it very clear that they will go to any lengths necessary to get things taken away from AEW. Any way in which they can hurt AEW, they're going to do so. Taking talent, signing up talent, holding PLEs head to head with AEW, right? We've seen this. Booking Goldberg's retirement match in the same night, trying to hold, John Cena's retirement match on the same night, although that didn't work. They believe that taking Chris Jericho away from AEW will hurt AEW way more than they will help themselves, right? Here's why I think Chris Jericho is done in AEW. He has been notoriously successful in being able to pivot in his career with various gimmick changes. He was unsuccessful with the learning tree, and his act was very old because he was going from group to group to group, and it just, I don't know, outside of the initial, year or so with the inner circle, it just kind of dissipated. It just didn't work. And I think it's time to pivot. And I don't think there's anything else for Chris Jericho to do in AEW, and I don't think he fits the style of AEW. AEW has changed tremendously since 2019. And you have to, and Tony Khan did this on a recent media call, you have to thank Chris Jericho for everything that he's been able to do in the company. But at some point, you have to say bye, right? All things come to an end. You do not get out of this life alive. It's always going to end. And I think Chris Jericho's tenure in AEW has just simply ended. If you like that, great. If you don't, that's fine. But at the end of the day, Chris Jericho was a huge part of AEW. I understand if Tony Khan wants to re-sign him. I understand if he wants to stay in AEW, right? He gets paid great money for little work. He has creative freedom. That's all situations that are true. But I would also say this. If you're Tony Khan, I don't know how much return on your investment you're getting with having Chris Jericho on your team and on your roster. I just don't. And so if you look at it from that standpoint, then it's, oh, okay, well, maybe we need to pivot. Maybe we need to change things and go in a different direction and let Chris Jericho go. Yes. Will he have a major return to WWE? Will it be big time when he first returns? Yes. But the man's 54 years old, and WWE doesn't necessarily need Chris Jericho. And I see them put in a situation where Jericho goes, hey, I want to end my career in WWE, give me a short run, and then I'll bow out. I can see that. And WWE would be interested in that. I don't know how much interest WWE would have in having Chris Jericho on a full-time basis. They didn't want to do that with Edge before he went to AEW. I just can't see that. And look, Chris Jericho has found a ton of success in the wrestling business. He's one of the biggest names of all time. There is no doubt about that. From a success standpoint, maybe not drawing power, but success, absolutely. He's not John Cena either, right? He's not getting a full year retirement tour. And so if you look at it like that, then I would say, hey, bring him back. Let him have his retirement match. Put him in the Hall of Fame, even though he's talked crap about your Hall of Fame. And we move on with our lives, right? I can see that playing out as well. It'll be very interesting. I'm very curious to see what they end up doing. But it's something to definitely keep an eye on when it comes to Chris Jericho.